Okay, Nikita, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm really looking forward for this chat today about the stepping stones, to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's a great time to be an entrepreneur. And yes, I think that's if you can encourage people to start working on the dream,
Mhm.
I think that would be like a massive success for us. So today we got a great a guest for this for talking about the stepping stone of entrepreneurship. And the guest is Dr. Shorful Islam that we have here. Shorful, how are you?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, how are you? So we got some technical issues, but that is completely fine. No one no one's gonna die. So we are gonna do our best to make sure that we share as much practical information. And yes, just to be nice to us, we are doing our best, but sometimes this is what happens with the technology. So Dr. Shuffle, can you hear us? So that is fine. That is fine. So Nikita, can you
Yeah.
tell us a little more, because you're the one actually who found that's a really great guest.
Yes.
How did you know about Dr. Shoful?
Okay, so Dr. Shorful is my personal mentor. I met with him because he's got a PhD in psychology. Now, that might come as a surprise to quite a few people because he's an entrepreneur, but he's got a PhD in psychology. And I think that would be probably a good place to begin. So we can perhaps let him introduce himself. Um, and then, yes, we can dive into this probably. So, Dr. Sharfal, do you want to introduce yourself? I think I would not do justice to your grand profile if I were to introduce you. So, yeah, please.
Okay. Thank you, Nikita. Apologies about the network connection. I have no idea what's happening. Seem to be connecting in and out. My name's Shorful Islam. I'm, as Nikita mentioned, I have a PhD in psychology, but I run my own analytics consultancy, and I've been doing that for about 6-7 years now.
So what we have already heard so far, that's
DB. I've had managing partner roles, head of data roles. And
Dr. Shorful,
about 6-7 years ago, I decided to start my own company.
Would you be able to it was cutting off a little bit. Could you just restart the introduction? We heard that you got a PhD, yes, and you started a business. But can you just tell us that again?
I'm not sure if he can hear us. Oh, yeah, he can. Well,
It's coming in and coming out, but that's just a question of a connection. So far, what we have, what is I found already impressive is to know that someone had the time to study, to have a PhD. So that's something super respectful, and he also found a way to create like a business. So we will talk about the stepping stones of entrepreneurship, but for me, the first thing is really about that's a place of education in entrepreneurship. Uh, I'm going to let you, Nikita, give us your opinion about the place of education in entrepreneurship, and then I will give you mine.
Tevin, I think I lost you as well. So I'm not sure if everything.
Oh, you lost me as well. Okay,
Yeah.
that's really everyone got a connection issue.
Yeah.
So Dr. Shoful is back, so maybe you can hear him.
We are having thunderstorms in the UK, so it's probably that. I don't know why. Yeah.
My network is really bad. I can't hear either of you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear Nikita. I can't hear Tevin though.
Okay. Okay. So Tevin was just asking you to repeat that because your introduction, all we heard is you've got a PhD in psychology, and then 6-7 years ago you started a company in data analytics, and then it kind of got cut. So could you repeat that, please?
This is the beauty of technology, but you know what? I think that we are not gonna even try to complain. If you think that like a few years ago it was impossible anyway to have that kind of a live broadcast open to us. So yeah, whatever happens, I'm really happy. And by the way, this is really what entrepreneurship is really about to deal with whatever is happening to you.
Yeah, this is a good example.
That's the perfect example. So, as Dr. Shorful is coming back, I would like definitely to know what's your take on education is an entrepreneurship. Do you think that it's important? That you think that it's not really?
Oh, are we having him back?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back. And I think it's a lot better, your connection.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
It's much better, yeah, for sure.
No, do I?
So, can you just tell us again?
So, shall I introduce myself again? I'm really sorry, everyone.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so as I mentioned, okay, can you guys hear me? Because I'm not hearing you guys.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Nikita, do you want him to suggest him to maybe to try to connect from his phone?
Yeah, okay, I could do that. I could ask him.
You can try. We can try that.
Yeah.
Yes, we are live. So
we were talking about education, the importance of education in.
Yeah. So what do you think about education and entrepreneurship?
I don't consider myself a complete expert in this field, but so I can't advise other people. But if I were to advise my own daughter, I think I would encourage her. I would not force her, of course, but I would strongly encourage her to pursue her education and then follow her dreams if she wants to become an entrepreneur or whatever she wants to do. But having a strong educational background is something that I value because it's not just what you study, but that process for me is how you get discipline. And especially, I mean, if you consider Dr. Shorful, he's done a PhD, doing something as rigorous or strenuous as a PhD. It is a lengthy process, and it's the discipline that it kind of brings to your life, to your how you can be meticulous in things, and the delayed gratification. All of those skills, they're transferable skills. You don't have to have those skills only in psychology or to do a PhD in a particular subject. But no matter what you do in life, I think those skills help you. And it's interesting. I used to believe, this is when I was probably between kind of 19, 20, that sort of an age span, I used to believe that to become successful, the only way is to go through an Ivy League school, and those are the people who become these top CEOs and entrepreneurs, and yeah, that's how it happens. Just one sec, Tevin, Dr. Shorful just messaged me saying that he's backstage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you. We can newly see you.
Can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't hear you.
Okay. But do you know what, Dr. Shorful? Maybe whatever happens anyway, if you are happy with that, we'll definitely also make sure that we re-invite you. You know, so if don't let's not stress about it at all. So at the moment you cannot hear us, so just log in, log out, and log in again until it works.
Is it working? Okay, let me send him a message and see.
Education and entrepreneurship, great topic. Yes, we agree with that, Celia.
Guys, I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Okay. Okay, I'll type him a message.
Let me just check my phone. Everything seems fine. Volume up.
So you're on your phone now, okay?
Tevin, what we can perhaps do is if you type in the question and he can read it and he can answer, that might go okay too.
Yes. Otherwise, what we can do, ask him maybe to log off from his computer and to log in just from his phone.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if that would change anything, but
log off from his computer.
Yeah, from his computer.
Yeah. Okay. While we're doing that, yeah, we can perhaps have our question ready for him. We can ask him to, where we can begin by asking him to introduce himself. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise,
I think it's the studio that's not working for him, and it doesn't work for me either. I had to download Google Chrome just for this, because on my MacBook, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You know what, Nikita? What about just at this time talking about a topic and reinventing, inviting Dr. Shorful?
Yeah, that's okay too.
I know that he's quite busy, so if he's okay with us finding like another time, that would be great. Because I don't want him to stress, to stress about it. Let's see if this time.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Yes, all good.
There we go.
I'm so sorry about this. This is the first time live I've had this happen.
Do you know what? What we have decided to do with this podcast is really to we are not really formal in the sense where entrepreneurship for us is really about, you know what? this is what's happening, this is how we deal with things, you know. So we are trying to be as authentic as possible. We are not going to, we are not trying to pretend that everything is perfect. That no, that's not the case for us. We are still like a young entrepreneurs, still in the early stages of a journey. We know that everything is not perfect, and if there's like one message that we want to share to your people that are willing to embrace that journey of entrepreneurship, is, you know what, just jump. It's not going to be easy. There are things that you're not going to be able to control, but do your best. Have a plan, do your best, and, you know, hope for the best. So that's exactly what's happening now. So thank you for being here, Dr. Shorful. So we are finally gonna let you introduce yourself properly.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So my name's Shorful Islam. As Nikita mentioned, I have a PhD in psychology. I currently work in the data space where we do a lot of analytics and data science. I run my own analytics consultancy, a company called Subatomic Analytics. I also advise a couple of an agency and a startup. So I serve as the chief data scientist at an agency called Tribal Worldwide. And I'm an advisor to a cybersecurity company called Outthink, where we're building the first predictive human risk intelligence platform or management platform. I started my career in the NHS as a sort of researcher, trying to understand why children, you know, become unhealthy, and try and come up with initiatives to keep them healthy. And then I went to local government where I did more sort of research and analysis. And then I jumped to the private sector where I worked at companies, corporates like ITV. And then I moved to agencies like DDB and then Wonderman, which is a WPP company, where I served as the managing partner of the data and insights division. And then about 5-6 years ago, I decided to start my own agency or consultancy in the data space. And as you said, sometimes you can do all the planning you like, but you just got to leap and work things as they happen. And as you've seen today, not everything goes according to plan.
Yeah.
That's often the way it goes.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a big question. I have kind of asked this question to you privately before, but it interests me, which is, how was the move from a PhD in psychology to becoming an entrepreneur in the data analytics space? Now, you kind of mentioned the gradual transition, but the reason I'm asking this particular question is because it applies to me. It applies to a lot of people that I know of. That if they've invested 10 years of their life in studying something, doing a PhD in that particular area, then to kind of let that go and do something else, how do you make that transition happen, or how does that,
Yeah, so I think in terms of because I've had jobs and then I became an entrepreneur, I didn't go straight into it. The hardest bit, I'll just talk about the leap from actually doing a PhD in academia and getting into a job, is that in academia, we are very robust and very procedural, and everything is done, perfectly, because you're doing experiments and you're writing them up. They're getting peer reviewed. There's so much checks and balances. If you can't say anything unless you've validated it and have got numbers behind it. When you move into the work world, that wasn't the case. Good enough is good enough. And the thing I'm finding in entrepreneurial world is that actually, I don't know. I don't know about young entrepreneurs, but I'm in my, without giving a lot of my age away, but mid to late 40s. And I find that you can say things, and as long as you're confident about it, people will believe you because they believe you've got the experience and knowledge to back it up. But I think when you have a PhD, or if you've done a lot of stuff in academia, you always something nagging in the back of your head. Oh my God, you're saying this without a study behind it or some robust data, or you haven't read the academic paper around it. But there isn't. Sometimes you've just got to go on what is best practice, what is good knowledge, what makes sense. And you find that people appreciate that. People appreciate you being able to simplify things and say this is what we should do. And I'll give a simple example is that if we run experiments on in the data world that we do, so we do a lot of like A/B testing, or we'll look at performance of certain things. We don't necessarily care if they're statistically significant or if we've got a robust sample size. Our clients just want to know, okay, we did this, what worked, what will make us money, And as long as you're confident and you've got some numbers to back it up, then it's fine. You don't need to go and rerun studies and have a large enough sample size or do all of that. No one actually really cares.
Okay. We were, I know we want to come back to the topic of the stepping stones, but I'm going to jump in on one more question, because when we were having network issues, we kind of touched this topic, which is education and entrepreneurship. And Tevin asked me this question, which is, how important do you think is education for entrepreneurship? Because we know of loads of names like Richard Branson or Bill Gates, or people who have dropped out of school to become entrepreneurs. So what's your take on that? Where do you value education and entrepreneurship?
I mean, I think education is always valuable, but not necessarily for entrepreneurship. That's more for self-development. I think the journey you take in education, whether you do it, during the time that you do it, undergraduate or college, or whether you do it later on in life, if you want to do further studies, that should be for personal development. And then that personal development should feed into your entrepreneurship, right? So that you bring more to the table. But it's not necessarily that you need education to go down the entrepreneurial journey. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think, entrepreneurial journeys are a lot about hard work, a lot about, finding solutions quickly. You don't necessarily need education to do that. You just need to have, just to be bright enough and smart enough to be able to solve problems. But I think I do think education for personal development is important, because then that will then help you as being an individual become a better entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of was on similar lines. I feel that, yes, education brings in that discipline. And for me particularly, there were subjects that I absolutely did not like, be it at school, college, or university level, and there were subjects that I absolutely loved. But I still had to do things that I did not like to begin with, until I could specialize further and further and drop out all those subjects. But I think that's what trains you to do either a job or become an entrepreneur, especially if you're an entrepreneur. There are certain things that you would want to do even when you don't like them. You can't literally delegate everything from day one. And so I think that has brought in some amount of discipline, and that's what I value. And of course, the personal development aspect of it. I do agree.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think when you study, especially at university level, doing at least a degree, if and then more later, but it does give you that discipline of independent study. And I think that's very valuable for an entrepreneur, because you can just procrastinate. You could literally, sit there thinking, oh, I've got to start my business. And, months later, you're still sitting there trying to work out, how to do your pitch deck or how to, what to call your company. I think when you study, you build that discipline of, meeting deadlines, being accountable to someone else, motivating yourself, but also researching yourself. I think that is quite key for an entrepreneur, to have those research skills, because a lot of the time when you go on an entrepreneurial journey, it's because you found something that no one else has done, which means that there won't be material readily available. So you're the one that has to either invent it or go and find it or dig it out or make transference from it. So having those research skills that you pick up when you're in education are quite critical. And and I've noticed this, that when people, even when they do Google searches, there's a big difference between people who've sort of gone through a formal education process, the way they search for things, and people who've not gone through it, because it does show a difference in thinking and how you narrow down and search for particular items or particular things that you need on the internet.
Yeah, I also have a kind of a similar opinion when it comes to education and entrepreneurship. I would be sometimes a little like a more critical about the educational system. I think that when you do a PhD, that's something different, because as a PhD student, you really need to understand how to use your brain and how to really make the most with your brain. So you still have like a specific way to use your brain. But I also think that there's so many studies where it's just people are just going through the motion, and it's just about having like a qualification that doesn't make sense. So I would say that anyone for me that does a PhD it's on another level because you do so much research and it's really kind of using your brain. But I also think that for so many studies, the way it is taught, I don't really feel that they're really helping people to be a thinker, critical thinker, and that's why I got some kind of I critique a little the educational system. But what I find really important, and this is really lifelong learning, really to instill the idea that your education never stops. You don't need like a paper. It's really about always learning, you know. And for me, that's a little. I do it. There's a difference between like formal education and informal education. Formal education for me, like a Jim Rohn said, formal education will give you like a job. Informal education will make you a living, you know, something like this. So education is important, but it's really about how we define education. But anyway, that's my personal take.
No, I mean, I do to some extent agree with what you're saying, and I resonate with that. I find that when I am speaking to sort of recent graduates and stuff, there's a lot of emphasis on passing exams. So, you know, they're essentially training, I guess, to pass exam. That's what they're learning to do, pass exam. And in the workplace, there is no final assignment. You don't hand in the assignment; it's continuous, right? You know, you do a project, you hand it in, that leads on to another project, leads on to another project. You know, work is not like an assignment. You don't, you know, some are obviously are, some are project based, but most, you know, even those projects, they do lead on to other work. You're continually employed.
Yeah,
So I think there is that where the current formal education, I think, trains people too much to pass exams rather than learn.
exactly.
You know, but on the same side, I think there is, you know, like you said, the informal education is quite key for entrepreneurs because you've always got to keep learning. Also, a lot of the time, you know, you might jump in a field as an entrepreneur and things change very dynamically, right? I mean, you know, in the world that I'm in, for example, you know, we talk about data, and one of the things that's going to impact a lot of the industry is Google, and Apple's already done this, where they're going to block third-party cookies. Now, third-party cookies are the basis for targeted advertising, right?
Yeah,
And, you know, that's what they use to follow you around the internet and make sure you buy that book or that sneakers or whatever, right? That's going to stop soon. You know, not Chrome, sorry, Safari have already blocked it. Firefox don't do it. When Google implements this, they were meant to implement it later this year, but it will be a couple of years now. But when they do implement it, that's it. You know, the landscape will change. Now, if you want to still stay in this space and you've built a product around third-party cookies, you've got to innovate. And the only way to
yeah,
innovate is really find out what knowledge is out there, what people are thinking. And once you read all that, the answer may not be in what you read. The answer will be in the connections your brain makes, right? So you might read 3 or 4 different pieces of work from different sources, and then in your brain the connections will happen, and then you might wake up like, aha, I've come up with a solution, and you'll solve it. But without having that informal sort of education, the hunger for education, you're never going to be able to
exactly.
solve it just sitting there and pondering about the problem.
Exactly. As a little parenthesis, as you mentioned about that issue was a third party cookies. That's definitely something that I also on the marketing level. That's why I say to a lot of clients that email marketing is really, really powerful. So if there's one advice that I will give here when it comes to marketing, really build, guys, your database. And there's going to be some times where you're going to see that is really, really a life. That can be a life. Yeah, that can save your business. But I'm closing the parentheses. I had like another question for you. Because you're a successful entrepreneur. I heard a lot of compliments from Nikita about you. So, if you had to advise entrepreneurs and tell them about let's say the 3 things they should really focus on in order to have like a successful business, what would that be?
So the first thing is make sure that the idea that you come up with, the thing that you're going to sell, whether that's a product or a service, is not just something that you like. It's something that other people like. There's this vested interest that you come up with an idea, you think it's amazing, but you don't share it. You don't, and also, or you don't take feedback. You've got to let this idea out into the world. You've got to talk to about with people, hear what they say. Don't be too defensive. There's a tendency when you've come up with an idea to be quite defensive, say, no, my idea is a great idea, you don't get it. Listen to the feedback, and sometimes you will receive positive, sometimes you'll receive negative, but, take the balance, work out whether your idea, your product, your service has a place in the marketplace before you take the big leap and leave your job or invest a lot of money. Because sometimes, you will come up with ideas that you think are very good, but what will happen is that the world is not either ready for it or they don't want it, right? Okay, so sometimes you find that there are products out there that would really improve people's lives, but no one wants it, right? It's not something that people want. So that's the first piece of advice I'd give. The second piece of advice I'd give is generating new business. So whether that's selling your product through marketing, whether that's if it's a service business, getting clients for your services, is that you have to be comfortable as an entrepreneur to sell your product. Okay, you cannot be a back office person as an entrepreneur. If this is your idea, your product, your service, you are the one, you are the face that's going to sell it. In the early days, people buy into your story about why you set up your company, and they need to see you. No, there's no point in hearing it from your salesperson or from a lead generation agency. Hearing it from you is very powerful, and only you will have that passion. The amount of times when I started my first company, when people hear it, they were like, wow, you're really passionate about it. And then you realize that it's because when it's your idea, you are passionate about it, right? No one else can be passionate about it like you can. So that's number two. And then the third one is find good people to work with. It's nice to go out alone. I mean, one of my companies I have done on my own, but the best experiences have been when you have other people to share that journey with. Okay, even if it's one other co-founder. Okay, and the reason for that is, well, not even a co-founder. It could be someone that you hire early on because you want them to be part of the journey. You might give them small equity in the company, but it's always I've found that it's much more powerful and your business benefits more when you have other people's inputs. Okay, rather than just going out on your own. I mean, obviously there's pros and cons of having other people, they have a say, and you don't want sometimes to, you want to do things your way. But I have found that find good people, to have around you, whether it's co-founders, actually, it could just be advisors, but have people around you who you can lean on, who you can bounce ideas off, who can give you advice. There is so much to cover off when you're an entrepreneur, everything from like paying your VAT, returns, to what software to use for CRM or whatever. Having a good set of people around you who can help you on that makes a huge bit of difference. It saves you making a lot of mistakes.
Sorry, that's a really great advice. Sorry about that. I was just tapping that because I think that's definitely what we really try to do. We really want to encourage as many people as possible to really start to work on the dream. And I think that's the advice that you are giving here are so useful. So I summarize. So you said to have like an abundance mentality. So if you have an idea, don't be like, okay, it's like a $1 billion idea, $1 billion idea. I'm gonna be secret on that until I'm gonna launch it. You might have like some surprise to realize that your $1 billion idea is something that actually no one wants. So I like the idea to really share about an idea that we think are great. The second one,
the market, isn't it? It's like to test the market, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that too. I like that too. So the second one was generating a new business. That once again, tell me if I didn't hear right, because I paraphrased there. I be a salesperson. Salesperson got a bad name, but I like the idea that actually you got an idea. But now if you are running a business, you need to generate income, so you need to sell that idea.
And that is sort of just on that. People find that very hard as an entrepreneur because they assume that their product will sell automatically, that everybody would love their ideas and flock to it. There's a million products and services out there. People have got lots of choice. So unless you are the salesperson, your product will just be another product hidden away, on a web page.
Exactly. And what I tend to say personally to people around me is that the first goal for any entrepreneur is not so much about is to realize that there's a lot of noise out there. So you cannot just expect that because you believe in your product, in your service, that people are going to jump on that. So the first job is really to cut through that noise, and to make sure that people know about you. So I like the idea to understand that you are gonna become like a salesperson, and there's nothing wrong with being a salesperson. If you're ethical, that's newly your mission to make sure
Yeah.
that people know about that product that you
I
have.
mean, the other thing it's beneficial if you're the salesperson is, don't forget, when people buy a product or service, they buy into a trust that if I buy this product or service, it will deliver on the promise, right? Now, if you're an old brand like Unilever or Microsoft, people know the product. There's been history of trust built in that product. They don't know you, or they don't know your product or service. So the only thing they know is you. So what happens is that sometimes you will get business because people trust you, and then that means that they trust the product or service that you're selling. And that's why it's really important, even though, like you said, salesperson can get a bad name. In this context, you have to be the salesperson.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the last thing that you mentioned is, and I like that, to share your journey with other good people. It can be in a partnership, it can be some advisors, but yes, I definitely like that one. And personally, I've learned that one also the hard way. Actually, I've tried to be, you know what, you can do everything on your own, and I don't know if it was out of greed and to be like, if I'm on my own, I'm gonna have all all the benefit, all the money, or it was because I'm quite introvert and I'm a really I'm really it's everything or nothing, So for me, if I go in a partnership, I'm like, I need to trust that person, and like a brother, whatever. So I don't know what combination it is, but I learned the hard way that doing everything on your own not only is tiring, but the result is can be quite disappointing.
Yeah. And the also thing is, a lot of the time there's a lot of frustration in entrepreneurship. Things don't go according to plan. You go 10 steps back. It's nice to have someone to share that frustration with, who understands it, who gets it, right? Because if they're not part of it, they'll never understand. They just say, well, why don't you just quit and get a job? If it's that much headache.
Exactly, definitely. On that topic, partnership, I have to say that I was so pleased actually to meet Nikita, and we are working on different projects together. Soon we will announce what it is, but that's a great partnership. And yeah, and sometimes talking about partnership, you will be surprised. I think it's also about networking, being open, and like here with Nikita, you can come across people that you didn't imagine, and then you are like, okay, do you know what? From the different people that I know, I think that person it would be like a great person to work with. So I think that yes, it's important, and being open to people.
I'm gonna dip in here because I think because Dr. Shorful has known me for quite a long time now, and he knows my journey. On this, well, I have another question related to this, but let's talk about this particular point wherein finding good people to work with, okay? Because like the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And as much as I agree with you on that, and that's why I keep bothering you every few days on WhatsApp. Uh, but it's very, at least in my experience, it's not easy to find that good person or the good people around you. Now, luckily, for various different projects, reasons, writing a book or whatever, I have you now for this podcast or other things. I found Tevin, but in the past, I have been kind of robbed of my ideas, cheated upon, and all those things. People formed partnerships. I put in all the money, all the effort, and then the next thing I know is they just fired me as a director from company's house. I didn't know how easy this process was. We just log in, click, fire this person, and it's done. So these things do happen. So can you, well, not just related to this point, but I wanted to, take it further and ask, can you tell us you've given us brilliant points for the stepping stones, what entrepreneurs should do. Could you also tell us something about what you shouldn't do or be careful about?
Yeah, so there's probably a lot you should not do. So let's talk about bringing in partners and stuff. So when you first set up your company, right, you sort of think, oh, giving away 1% share to this person and 5% is nothing because the company has nothing. But that could actually come back and really affect your company, because you've suddenly now got people who probably don't share the same mission as you. They don't want to be part of the journey. So choose who you go on that journey with very carefully. And the way I do it is that you have to so you have to understand that you will get on with that person personally, but you'd also be able to work with them. So in your head, think about it, right? Okay, is this the kind of person that if I got frustrated, if I got angry, that they would understand? But also, is this the kind of person that knows in a professional setting we've both just got to pull our socks up and get the work done? Okay, and so therefore I look for people who have that work ethic, who are hardworking, who don't mind putting in long hours sometimes if they need to, and do that. If you feel that the person's an ideas person who just wants to talk and be heard, they're not the right type of people to do partnerships with, because what you find that they're usually the kind of ideas who come with loads and loads of ideas but poor execution or no execution, or they'll just suck stuff from you or make you do things, and then you end up finding that you're running the whole company and they're doing nothing. So be very careful about when you do bring people into your company, who you give shares to or who you make partners. The other thing is, there's a temptation, and people say, oh, fake it until you make it. I think to some extent, it does work where you need to do things, because you're never going to compete with the big corporates with their $1 billion or $1 million budgets to develop stuff. So what you shouldn't do though is promise too much and then stress about delivering it. Okay, because if you're not delivering something that you are good at anyway, then you shouldn't really be offering it as a service. Okay, and there is a temptation when you first start your company to say, we'll do everything, especially if you're doing a product, right? So let's say you're building a product, and let's say it's a video conferencing facility, right? And then a client goes, look, we'll give you loads of money if you can add in a whiteboard. And then you divert all your attention to adding in this whiteboard because this client's going to give you loads of money. But then your core product suffers, and you're no good at building whiteboards. You're very good at building video conferencing software, but you diverted all your resources into building a whiteboard that only one client wants, and it's because of short-term money that you're going after. It's the same with services. When you offer like I offer services as a data consultancy, sometimes clients come to me and say, can you do this for us? Because I've worked on another project with them, and if it's not in my scope, I now decline that. I used to actually say yes because I thought I needed the revenue and I needed it. But what you find is that you spend a lot of disproportionate amount of time doing something that you're not good at, and it makes the other parts of the business suffer, and you can't make that grow. So be quite selective in what you take on as business, or how you make your product evolve. Stick to your core skill set. That way you find that it's something you enjoy doing with your core skill set, but also you can progress faster in building out that part of your business. What else should you avoid? I think the other thing is there's this temptation to believe that you can work whenever and however you like. Now, that becomes true later on in your entrepreneurial journey. When you set everything up, you find that actually I'm very fortunate now. I can, I can, work whatever times I want in the way that I want. But early on, it is harder than working full time. Because not only do you have to do the job, you've got to do all the returns. If you've got employees, pay their salaries. You've got other things to do, new business, for example. So you've got all those kind of things to do. So be realistic, that in the early days, you will have to do more hours. Don't think that, I'm just going to do whatever hours I want. Your business won't take off. It won't succeed. So, like I said, expect to do the long hours, expect to work hard, but then later on you will find that you do have that freedom that a lot of entrepreneurs sort of aspire towards.
Yeah, that's, I think, really good advice. So yeah, being really selective about who you partner with. Don't promise too much, and be realistic, because in the beginning it is, we see these successful entrepreneurs having a lifestyle that is the 4-hour work week and all of that, and we think, oh well, that's how it's going to be. And in the beginning it's harder than a job, and then it feels like, why the hell am I doing this? Should I be doing this? Am I getting it all wrong? So yeah, being realistic, I think, is really great advice. I think, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I definitely, yeah, so I definitely really appreciate that, and actually, that's interesting because um, I sometimes come across a client who mention things like, okay, um, and that can come quite early in the conversation where they're like, do you know what? I don't want to work full time. And for me, sometimes that's quite challenging because I always try to be in a way as supposed as I can, you know. So and when anytime people, especially that people who didn't especially know things about like online marketing, the online world, you know, they will be okay. You know, I need to understand a little more about online marketing. So what can be done? So I will, you know, put some strategies in place or explain them things. It's really just about the marketing, and then there come a conversation where we'll talk about like okay, so what ideas do you have on the long term, and they will be like, yeah, now that I'm actually thinking about going online, actually the idea for me is to generate more working less. And in my head I'm like, okay, so be cautious with that because, like Nikita mentioned, you got like that's a 4 hours a week. That's a great title, but the reality is so different. So what I really try to say to people is that things like working from everywhere, from anywhere, passive income. I said that you guys need to really find refine the definition of passive income, you know. And I say passive income is not you doing nothing and having a lot of money coming down. No, no, no. It's you working a lot for money to be able to still come into your account even when you're sleeping. But it's not you doing nothing and a lot of money is coming in your account. Certainly not. I would say the first years of your business. Maybe later. I know I got some mentors who tell me that they got like different streams of incomes, and for each stream that will generate like maybe like a few 100,000 a year. That is true that they will not work full time. They will work maybe like 5 hours, sometimes even less than that, and generate a lot. But this is just the top of the iceberg. Before getting there, there's definitely been a lot of sweat and tears. So yeah, I like the that's a reminder. That's really important.
And the thing is, if you want that 4 hour week and stuff, I mean, you know, like I said, I'm quite fortunate to do that. The way you do that is that you build a team that can take over from you. Okay, so that your business is no longer dependent on you running it. So, you know, especially if you run a service business or even a product business, hire people, nurture them, invest that time early on. So, you know, yes, it's a lot of work in the early days. You've got to train them, you've got to, you know, mentor them and coach them. But then later on, it will pay dividend because they will run your business for you, and then you can step back, you know, and let other people deal with all the stress and the worry, and you can then have passive income.
I remember when Shorful and I were considering working together, and the first advice he gave me was right from the beginning, you have to think of how can you make yourself redundant. Because if you're thinking of yourself as I'm the only one who knows everything and I want to be that way, that I hold all the information, I'm the queen of everything, well, then you will be working more than 10 hours a day every single day, and it's going to be harder than a day job. So yeah, I think the idea of having a team and thinking about how can you make yourself redundant is great, because a lot of us don't have that mentality. We tend to think I want to hold all the information, I don't want people to know my secret. Yeah.
No, I like the idea that's so important. The idea to have a team. On that level, I actually like the idea. I really like the advice to actually, even when you start your business, to organize it in such a way that you want to be redundant. So I think that's a way to actually organize the business from the. I like the idea to start with the end in mind, you know, and rather than just to be like, okay, I got that business, I'm just gonna jump and start I don't to swim straight away. To take the time to think ahead and to plan things. And on that one, I don't know if you're there's like a book that I also recommend to people. I don't know what you think about that one. It's E-Myth Revisited by Berger. That's actually a book for entrepreneur who actually explain that the concept, to organize your business in such a way that you are redundant. And the way he explained in that book is that what you want to do is to even as you're starting your business, to literally create like an organigram with different position. So you will have like the CEO. Everyone wants to be the CEO, So you're gonna have your organigram to have like the CEO. That's great. You're gonna have, let's say, for example, the 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 IT department. You're gonna have uh, onboarding department. You're gonna have like the salespeople. You're gonna have the after find all the different departments. And what you're gonna do later is actually just to put your name beside all those departments, all those positions. And the reason is said to organize your business from the beginning like this is that you realize that actually like this you are actually filling different positions. And as your business is growing, slowly you're gonna replace yourself by another person in that position. But thinking that way from the beginning, you know that you are working towards developing a team, and the idea is that at some point you are going to be maybe just a CEO, or even like not being in the business and being in the so the that's a EMIS revisited, and I think that's explained quite well the concept here to make yourself redundant. So yeah, I definitely like this that advice, and it's nice to know that actually you are working much less than us. You say, Nikita? So
yeah, because I work in schools, and when initially I started requesting Dr. Shorful to give me some advice on, well, that was mainly with psychology, and I was worried to ask him to, because the hours that suit me are especially during school holidays in the middle of the afternoon, so my daughter's not there and all that. I can't meet people for dinner meetings or evenings. And I was like, can you really come out at maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Like, yeah, no worries. I was like, really? What do you do? Like, you've inherited a lot? And well, that's another topic for some other day, because we were talking about resilience in that aspect. But yeah, so yes, Dr. Shorful definitely is in that position where I think he must have, I don't know if he started that way, thinking about making himself redundant, but that's what he told me. That
I mean, I've always thought about how do I get other people to do what I do. The reason, even when I was doing a job, and the reason for that is I get bored very quickly. So what I didn't want to do was, like, in 2 years' time, still do the job that I was doing. So I always thought to myself, when I'm recruiting people, well, are these people good enough to take over in 2 years what I'm doing now? Okay, don't ever think you're going to get someone like immediately take you over. You've got to think of a 2-year window, right? At least a 2-year window. So when you're recruiting, if you've got that mindset, then you select the right type of people, because you won't always be looking for like technical expertise. You'll be looking for sort of like attitude, mindset, work ethic, that kind of stuff. And then hopefully, that will then, mean that you will have people in your organization who can take over from you, because you've recruited for that purpose.
Yeah.
We got a question here. Sorry. We got a question here. Do you think everyone should start a business?
Once upon a time, I would have said yes, but as I've met more and more people, I think the answer is no. Some people are very happy and actually very good at just being an employee. That's what they do. They've got the temperament, they've got the mindset to do it. Even within organizations, I found that some people don't want promotions. I've always been ambitious. As soon as I've got into a job, I've always been seeking, how do I get promoted and move up? And when I was a manager and a leader, I thought all of my team wanted to do that. But I would interact and find some people are happy what they're doing. They're happy with their lifestyle. They don't want more responsibility. The money is not the main thing for them. The fact they can get home to their kids on time is more important than that. And so what you find is that not only is everything, everyone suitable for business, or should everyone start a business, but not everyone, wants to become the leader in a company either. So I think, on that particular question, absolutely not. I think if you want to start a business and you're unsure if you're suitable for it, ask yourself this, okay? Could you work with no structure? Okay, so in work, when you go in, people tell you what to do, right? But ask yourself, if you had no structure, if you went into work in the morning and nobody gave you any direction, any instruction, could you do it? Okay, could you do something to make money, right? Ideally deliver something that makes money, obviously, but could you do that? And if the answer is no, I couldn't, I need someone to tell me, then maybe you're not suitable for running your own business.
I was that kind of person, at least a couple of years ago. I would admit that it was not about the structure for me. It was about the uncertainty of not having a certain paycheck coming in on the first of every month. I just wanted that security. As a mother, I was like, I have a family to look after. I cannot just have that uncertainty wherein this month I get 10K and the next month I get 500 pounds. It doesn't work like that for me. Be it a smaller amount than 10K, I don't care, but I want a certain amount coming in first of every single month, and that's how I operated. So
I mean, on the money thing, that is an important determinant. And what I found personally is that if you are good budgeting on your personal side, so you know how much you spend, how much expenditure you have, then you make a much better entrepreneur. You know why? Because if you one month you get 10K, next month you get nothing, because you know how much your budget is, you will put money aside because you know that your monthly outgoings is 2,000, whatever it is. You know, you will put that aside from your 10K to last you in the lean month. Okay. But if you are the kind of person who doesn't monitor even your personal budget, then I would probably not advise you to become an entrepreneur, because, you know, because what normally happens is that because you get the guaranteed paycheck, you just spend from it, right? So it's like it comes in, you spend. And so a lot of people I know don't actually understand or know in detail their personal budget. So I would advise that if you can't monitor and manage your personal budget, then, you know, being an entrepreneur is going to be very tough from a financial point of view.
Yeah, I think at least starting to that is really good advice. I mean, starting to consider this, and if you're not like that already, and if you still want to become an entrepreneur, then learning that skill, because it took me years to learn that skill, because I was the kind of person, the day my salary came in, rent is paid, everything else is spent, and that was it. And then if something suddenly came up at the end of the month where I'm left with nothing, like a car breakdown or whatever, then it's okay, I have credit card, you know, and that's how it happened. But I had to learn that skill of budgeting and keeping, okay, well, I'm going to keep a certain amount of money on the side, not touch it for a rainy day. I still struggle, but yeah, that's great advice. I'm kind of aware of the time, Tevin. If you don't have any other questions, do you want to wrap up, or unless you have any other questions?
I don't have any. I still have so many questions.
Yeah.
I have to say. Hopefully, Dr. Shorful would be kind enough to accept another invitation, because that would be so great to have him again.
Yeah, definitely.
Happy to always help.
So that you literally have two options. One option is to let me ask my question, and we are here until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning of next Saturday, you know, or to accept like another invitation.
I'll go with the accept the other invitation. Okay, I don't want to be here on a Sunday night.
Good. But Dr. Shorful, thank you so much. So if there's like anything that we can do for you, I don't know if you got like a website you want us to mention, if you got a service, a project, please let us know even now or later. But
no, I mean, like I said, I work in the data space. So if anyone has any sort of data needs, whether they need a data strategy or they want to know what to do with the data they collect, or they want to build some fancy personalization algorithm, then get in touch. You know, my company's Subatomic Analytics. If you Google it, you'll find it, or, you know, connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to help people in the world of data.
Oh, and if you
Subatomic Analytics, sorry.
Subatomic Analytics.
Subatomic. So subatomic as in the particle thing. So Subatomic Analytics. I guess the other thing to mention is that I do have a YouTube channel where I give advice for data analysts. It's something I started with my son who's getting into filmmaking. So we make videos, and I sort of publish them because, you know, I like to help people get into the world of analytics and data. So I've got a YouTube channel. Again, just search for my name, Dr. Shorful, and hopefully you'll find the channel.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about, at least, because I didn't know data analytics was, and before. Now I'm really, I would like to say just not a mentee. I consider Dr. Shorful as a friend. I'm sure he doesn't consider me just as a mentee, but a friend as well. So before that, when I didn't know what data analytics was, I felt really shy asking him that question. And I looked up on his YouTube channel, and I found all the information. So if you want to know more about data analytics, definitely that's a good place to start.
And I would also add that actually I really believe that that field of data analytics is really the future for businesses. It's so important now to really know your numbers, your data. So if massive companies, we are there to really support like small companies. And the approach that we have is that even as a small company, you can actually compete with the bigger structures, but you need to be able actually to benefit from all the tools that are available for you. Social media is a great tool for you, even things are going to change and become more and more expensive. But another tool that is, I think, underutilized by so many small businesses is really data analytics. And so I'll definitely encourage anyone to check the website and to eventually contact Dr. Shorful, just to have a little more understanding of how that can help your business. So thank you so much, Dr. Shorful, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.